I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to install an invisible zipper. So whenever I'm installing a zipper, the first thing that I do is finish the seam allowance along, this is the center back of the dress. So I've serged it. You can use whatever type of seam finish you'd like. Then I also interface behind where the zipper is going to be. So the seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch. I've just cut a 1-inch strip of interfacing and ironed it on to the back of the fabric. And the last thing that I do is I use my blue washout marker and I mark the 5/8 inch seam allowance, the length of the zipper. Now, I'm using a contrast zipper here just for demonstration purposes, so I will be using basting stitches because this is not the one that I will leave in the dress, but I wanted you to be able to see that. And then the next step is to open the zipper up and to, with the tip of the iron, just press this coil away. You're trying to flatten out because this zipper wants to roll towards the inside. That's what makes it invisible. So don't use too hot of an iron, but just with the tip of your iron, press that open a little bit. The next step is to position the zipper on the back of the dress. And you can either pin it, you can hand baste if you're comfortable with that, or you can use temporary glue, basting glue, to baste the zipper in place. But what you want to do is have it so that when these teeth are flattened out, that they are right on this blue line. And because I've got this neckline sewn already, I'm going to put the top of the zipper, not the seam allowance area, but the top where the zipper stops is going to be right at the seam allowance there. So whatever method you choose to secure this, whether it's pinning or the glue based, you can also use the double stick temporary water soluble basting tape as well. That comes in a 1/4 inch wide, and that would also work. So I'm going to get this pinned in place and then I will stitch it. So I have my zipper foot on my sewing machine. I don't have an invisible zipper foot. You certainly can use that if you have it, but it's not necessary. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be using a basting stitch because this zipper doesn't match. So you would want to back stitch at the top here, and then you want to stitch close to that zipper, kind of holding it open as you go along. So the first side is stitched on. So again, for the second side, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to have the top of the zipper where it closes stop at the seam allowance here at the top, and then you will open this zipper up so that the teeth rest on the blue line that you've drawn on your garment back. So I'm going to pin this in and then I'll stitch that side. So I have my second side stitched in, and the next thing you want to do is actually zip up the zipper and make sure that it meets up at the top the way you expect it to. If it doesn't, you'll want to take out one side and redo that so that the tops meet. This isn't quite perfect, so if this was going to be the zipper that I was leaving in, I probably would redo one of these sides so that the little V here at the top meets exactly. It's off maybe, I don't know, a 1/16 of an inch, but that gives you the idea anyway. And obviously I have a longer zipper here than I would have needed for this garment. And you can always cut your zipper to length. So at this point I would zigzag back and forth in the same spot, and then you could clip the zipper off to the correct length. This dress has a partial lining in the front, so the next step for this one to enclose it would be to put this right sides together, and then I'm going to stitch across the top and then stitch again just to the inside, meaning closer to the seam allowance, about 1/8 of an inch closer to the seam allowance, and that will secure the lining without having to hand whip it down. So I'll do that next. So here I am stitching across the top of the neckline there. And when you hit the stitching line for the zipper, you want to pivot and make sure that that zipper stays rolled away from your needle. And you want to stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from that previous stitching line. At this point, you would clip diagonally across the top of the zipper to remove that bulk, and then you would flip it to the right side, and you can see then that when this is zipped up, you've got your lining secured at the same time. So that is a nice way to get your lining stitched in without having to do a lot of hand work. And you would do that for the other side as well. The last step here would be to finish the rest of the seam down the center back of the dress. So I will do that, and I'll leave my zipper foot on so that I can get right up to the stitching here where I finish the zipper. Because you're using the zipper foot, if you're not good at visualizing where the 5/8 inch seam is, you can always draw that in with your blue washout marker. And you would back stitch at the top there because you don't want that stitching to come loose. And there you have it. Your invisible zipper is in. All it needs now is a good press, and it's good to go. If you have enjoyed this video and don't want to miss out on other tutorials as I post them, please hit the subscribe button.